Hey everybody, it's Kathy. Welcome to episode 10? No, 9. Facebook right now is telling me 10, but I thought it was 9. So it's either episode 9 or 10, and I will. Oh, I know. It is the 10th broadcast, but this is episode 9 of Mondays on the Mat because my first broadcast was just sort of a figure it out. Phew, glad we worked that out. So, welcome to episode 9 of Mondays on the Mat. Today's topic is supposed to be why alignment and engagement matters. I might talk about that today, or it might end up getting ditched and becoming next week's lesson or episode. We'll see. But like my little sign right here says, there is definitely going to be some F-bombs and perhaps a couple of other adult language type words in today's episode. So if you're watching this either on your lunch break at work or around your littles and you would prefer that people not hear that type of language, please make sure that you use your headphones. So if we're not talking about alignment and engagement today, what are we going to talk about? And what I want to tell you is a story about what happened in Las Vegas, because what happens in Vegas this time isn't staying in Vegas. And what happened is that shit got really real, like really, really real. But I didn't even realize that until this morning, which is why we're having a story time today instead of a yoga lesson. So I think what I'm going to do is tell you this story in 3 parts. And the first part is going to be how I ended up in Las Vegas in the first place. Why was I there? What happened while I was there? And then what happened this morning that really made me realize that shit got real. So there's this amazing publishing company called Hay House, and the type of books that they produce are spiritual, self-help type books, memoirs, all cookbooks, children's books, all kinds of things, but their category is around spiritualism, spirituality. And I really think that they Empty Buckets Overflow, which is a memoir of my story of how yoga took me from being a train wreck of a self-loathing, codependent 25-year-old to a self-confident woman in her 40s with a abiding sense of human, divine, and universal love. And I just think they're a really great match. Since this is my first book, I also know that there's a potential or a possibility that a publisher won't pick it up, and Hay House has this really cool subdivision called Balboa Press where you can self-publish your book, and I've always thought that that would be a great match for me too when the book is ready. So I get emails from Hay House all the time, and I will be honest with you, I never ever open them. And to the point where the way my email program works is if you're getting emails from someone for a long enough period of time where you don't open them, it moves it from your inbox into something called clutter. They're like, well, you haven't said this is spam, but we know you're not reading it, so it's probably just messing up your inbox. So it goes over there. And a couple of times a week, I'll go check my clutter to make sure that something I did need in my inbox somehow didn't end up over there. And a couple months ago, I was scanning through that clutter box, and there was an email from Hay House, and I don't even remember the title, but I think it had something to do with like soul searching boot camp or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll click on that, even though I never open their emails. And I looked at this thing called Hay House Live and this soul searching boot camp, and I was like, it's not for me. I'm not interested. But further down from that was something called Writer's Workshop, and kind of the same thing. I was like, I'm not interested, and I closed the email and walked away. And for like a good 5 minutes, I felt like this itch, and that I needed to go back and look at it some more. And I went back and looked at the Writer's Workshop part and got really intrigued because part of the information said, if you attend this workshop, you can enter a contest, and one winner will be chosen to have their book published by Hay House without a literary agent, which is a huge deal, you guys. You can't get a book published by a publishing company without a literary agent. And then 2 people are going to win the self-publishing packages. And the moment I saw that and read that, I went, I'm going to get that. There was no self-doubt. There was no questioning. It was just like, I'm going to get that. And I decided to go to this workshop. I even canceled I tried to do in the spring and fall, like some self-learning. And so I canceled the thing I had originally planned to do for self-learning and signed up for this instead. And my intention of going to this workshop was 100% for this contest and learning what I needed to do to submit the information for the contest. So there I am in Las Vegas this weekend. And it's so funny because I kept telling people that I was going to Las Vegas for this conference, and they're like, ooh, Vegas, you can party and be wild or whatever. And it's like, yeah, no, I slept for 12 hours Friday and, and then went to the conference. So it wasn't wild and crazy like that. And I learned so much, and I learned exactly what I need to do for the submission to the contest. And it was exactly what I intended. And it was a wonderful 2 days. I was engaged and present and like turned on the whole time, and I loved it. And it's interesting because when I was back at the airport last night to fly home, I was tired. It was a long 2 days and a lot of information. And when you get a lot of new information, your mind gets tired. But as I was sitting at the gate and it was crowded and busy, and I'm sure I smelled like stale casino and, all that good stuff, I felt really compelled to sit down and write something that I was having a deep awareness of. And that was the entire weekend I had zero anxiety. And I'm someone who experiences anxiety and panic attacks, especially when I'm in new environments and when I travel by myself. Traveling alone almost always at least elevates my anxiety. And y'all, I went through 3 airports, 4 flights, couple of shuttle rides, navigating the crazy Las Vegas hotels with like all the towers and where do you go, and like getting lost and turned around there one time, and all of that. And I didn't not even an ounce. And I was like, wow, that was huge, because it told me that I was in the right place. And so I'm sitting in the airport tired and writing in my journal about this, which is fascinating because I always write in the morning when I'm fresh. So that was a really interesting indicator that something good was happening. I went to bed about 1 o'clock last night, and I'm a go to bed at 9 p.m. kind of a gal. So I really anticipated being kind of tired and fuzzy and not fully focused today. But I didn't. I woke up really clear and energized and ready for the day. And so when I was in the shower, because I meditate right after I take a shower, my mind sometimes starts to move in that direction. And I kept hearing, tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. And I didn't know what story I was supposed to tell, but I started thinking about this experience in Las Vegas and how the entire conference felt so grounded to me in comparison to the Wanderlust Festival. So I've been to the Wanderlust Festival, which is a yoga and music festival, a couple of times. And then I was at this, and I was like, why did it feel so grounded? What was it about this that just feels different, not better or worse, just different than the Wanderlust Festival? And one thing I realized was I had some really big names that were speaking at this conference, one of which was Dr. Christiane Northrup, which many of you may know her. She's a great author in the world of female healing and female arts. And so she was going to be speaking yesterday in the segment that was after the morning break, but before lunch, like that 10 or 10:30 to noon type time slot. So we were on a break right before she was going to speak. And there's 250 people in this. There's 250 people in this Writers Workshop conference. So Dr. Northrup is going to be speaking in about 10 or 15 minutes after our break. And she's just standing right there. I'm not even from where I am, y'all, right here, she's just standing there. She's not backstage. There aren't like her entourage around her creating a buffer so that you can or cannot get to her. She's right there. And if you want to go up and speak to her, you can go up and speak to her. And there were like two people talking to her. And it was sort of this like, she's a human, we're a human. She's going to go up on stage and talk. We're going to sit over here and listen. If you want to say hi, go say hi. It's all good. And it's just interesting because that's not the feeling tone that I get at Wanderlust. I get more of this feeling tone of like there's a buffer around the teachers and you shouldn't be approaching them really or talking to them. Or I had the experience at one point, one of the instructor who's very well known in the yoga world was walking this way and I'm walking this way. And I was just going to smile and say hi like I would to any other human being. I'm like that. And it was almost like, a scowl and a like, don't bother me or talk to me because I'm not teaching right now sort of a thing. So it was just different. And so then as I'm sitting down to meditate, oh, we got a cat. I don't think you guys can see her. Do you want to see her? Oh, she took off. If she comes back, I'll make sure you guys can say hi to her. So I sit down to meditate and I keep hearing this, tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. And I was ruminating on those things I was just telling you. And I recognized that this is why Empty Buckets Overflow is going to be such a great book and why it's such a needed book is because at Wanderlust, people who are new to yoga and learning yoga, they're in their bodies and they're learning how to grow and expand themselves on the level of their body. And that's the first section of Empty Buckets Overflow is my story of how I needed to learn and grow and expand myself in relationship to my body and how to love my body. And that's where those people are at. And it's good. It's good to learn that moving your body feels good. It's great to learn that you can do fascinating and amazing things with your body. It's great to learn that feeding your body good food feels good. And that's where those people are vibrating. They're growing into it, or they have grown into it and they're experiencing the fullness of that. And then the teachers are teaching that. So awesome. That's a vibration, right? Because everything in this universe is a vibration. And then vibrations attract like. And so the vast majority of people who are there are resonating in that vibration. And it's really good. Okay, and this is so random, you guys, but the cat that came in pushed the door open and I can hear the dryer running in the background because I'm doing all that Vegas laundry. So I'm just going to push the door closed so I don't get distracted. Okay, so all those people at Wanderlust, right, they're vibrating at that level. And what I realized is that the people at the Hay House event, because their deal is spirituality and the soul, the people who are there are growing into and expanding their love and awareness of their soul, of the universe, of that connection of what that all means. And so they're growing and expanding into that, or they've learned it and they're living in it, and the teachers are teaching it. So the vibration at the Hay House event was the vibration of the soul. And that's a higher vibration than the vibration of the body. And so Empty Buckets Overflow has body, mind, and soul, these three different vibrations. And I realized that I was in the vibration of the soul. And that's a very calm and grounded and peaceful place. And why I had zero anxiety. And it was just the coolest fucking thing, you guys. So that all went down. And I'm realizing all this, and I remember that yesterday Dr. Northrup had us do this writing exercise where you turn on Baroque music because it has a certain beat per minute. You close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and you begin writing. And I knew I wrote some pretty real and truthful stuff yesterday, but I hadn't gone back and reread it. So as I came out of meditation today and I kept hearing tell your story, and I was thinking I have to go work on my book and there's all these things that I learned and I need to figure out what I'm going to do next, but I still just kept hearing tell your story. and that I felt like I needed to go back and read what I wrote. So I went back to that writing, and the very first thing I wrote was, I am scared. And when you have to be truthful and you get a little emotional, it means that you're doing the work and showing up for it. So I read through that, and the word failure stuck out to me. And then I remembered that about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, over here in this other notebook that's off to the side, I had written the word failure. And then I remembered that I wrote the word failure somewhere else in they gave us this lovely journal this weekend, which I know shows up backwards because of the camera. But somewhere else in here this weekend, I had written the word failure. And one of the things that she had us do was, anytime you get stuck, you ask yourself, what do I mean by that? And so I started asking myself, what do I mean by that? And two interesting things came up. The first one, actually, I'm realizing came up in meditation, but it matters, is there's in the body section of Empty Buckets Overflow, there is a chapter called Body Love Quest Complete. And deep, deep, deep down, y'all, I know that I lied a little bit about that. Not 100%, but that a part of me lied, because I really didn't fall in love with my body until later in the story, when I was doing Yoga Flirt, and when I had to get really comfortable with being in front of people in those little teeny tiny shorts with the dimples on my thighs, and seeing some photographs of myself, and really starting to realize how powerful and amazing my body is. And so, yeah, so when I thought that moment, my eyes popped open and I went, fuck, I have to rewrite this book. And then I was like, no, you just have to rewrite this part a little bit. And then I remembered, oh, I kind of sort of partly lied about this other part about Yoga Flirt too. And it was like, okay, you don't have to rewrite the whole book. You have to rewrite those two sections where you sort of lied and didn't tell the whole truth. Okay, so that brings us back to failure. Because part of the truth that I didn't tell is that we made it appear as though closing Yoga Flirt was purely a choice. And it was more like partly a choice and partly because there was failure. It was the location itself was not failing, but my goals for it to expand and have it become a national brand were failing. I didn't do it. And I got to a point where I didn't want to, and I was out of gas and a whole bunch of things, but I never publicly explained that anywhere. And so today, after all of this interesting stuff with Dr. Northrup and the writing, and then asking myself, what did I mean about that this morning? Just this morning. This is like huge, you guys. I just figured this out like 3 hours ago. So if you're watching this, you are the first to know and get some juicy behind the scenes stuff that, number one, is going to make Empty Buckets Overflow a way better book, because it's going to be more truthful, but also, help me as a human being. So I know this is going to show up backwards, but I want you to see that there's this section right here that I wrote in all capital letters this morning. And it says, the very worst, most scary thing to me on the planet is failure. Because to me, failure means a loss of love. If I fail, I won't be loved. And so I didn't want to admit that publicly, that Yoga Flirt failed, because I was terrified I would lose love. Love from the students who were there, and love from my husband, who stuck with me with this crazy thing, and then we decided to close, and that sort of thing. And what I realized this morning that was so amazing. And do you see that? How I just took like the biggest, fullest breath, and how understanding this has relieved me in ways you won't even, I don't think I even understand yet. Um, I survived my greatest fear. I survived my greatest fear. I failed. I didn't die. I didn't lose love. Because divine love is the cosmic jellyfish. And if you don't know what the cosmic jellyfish is, after this video is over, I'll go post a link to a blog post I wrote maybe about a year ago about the cosmic jellyfish. But basically, people call you like you're a cup of God, like God is an ocean and you're a cup of God. To me, it's more like this divine white jellyfish, and each of us are tentacles. So we are divine love, and we are being, so it's like we're being loved and we are love. And so what I realized this morning is that through that failure, my understanding of love deepened. So not only did I survive my deepest and darkest and most sincere fear, it actually expanded my soul. What? So, cosmic jellyfish, right? And I'm afraid I'm going to lose love if I fail. And every human being is one of these tentacles. I realized that some of the tentacles did drift away, but I'm still one. I am still loved and I am still being love. I am being loved and I am love. And also, there were tentacles that never moved away. My husband, love and support and appreciation of me never wavered. And even when I would be like, oh my God, I failed, because, privately I talked about it, he was like, okay, you're awesome. Go write your book. Go teach yoga. Like, he never once didn't love me. And I have attracted new tentacles, new people from the cosmic jellyfish who love me for what I'm expressing out into the world now. And it was just like, oh, what is and so it's like, oh, now I realize I have no reason to fear my deepest fear. And so if I write Empty Buckets Overflow and 100 people read it, and that's kind of considered a tank I just learned this weekend that if 100 people read your book, ugh, you know what I mean? But like that could happen. And I'm not going to lose divine love. I'm not going to lose human love. And it was just the coolest fucking shit ever, you guys. I mean, talk about shit getting real. And so, yes, that means that the arc of my book needs to change a little bit. And so maybe it's going to take a little bit longer to get into your hands, but that's so okay, because it's going to be a better and more truthful story. And what I also learned this weekend is that if you tell a better and more truthful story, it's more universal. And that's really my goal, is that I tell a story. While it's my story, it's telling a universal theme about our quest for love. And I'm understanding that when we get to that point where we can survive our greatest fear and understand that we are and always will be loved, that's it. Like, that's the thing we're trying to learn. And as I learn it and now get to teach it, it helps not only the growth and expansion of my soul, but the growth and expansion of the entire universe. You guys, like, so huge. So that's what happened in Vegas. I feel like I'm running out of steam on this story, but that there was one or two other things that I probably wanted to comment about it. And so I may come back and like type a few things in at the end, and I'm glancing down at my little journal to see if there was anything else, if it triggers anything else for me. But I don't think that it is right now. So that's what happened in Vegas. Shit got real. Yay! And it all came from me randomly opening an email, thinking I'm going there to learn how to do my book submission, and coming out with like a better book, which means it'll help more people. And so if I could say anything to you at the end of this whole story, if I could say anything to you that matters to you right now, is trust your impulses and follow your instinct, even and especially when you think you're going or doing or whatever for option A, and really, the universe has your back, and you get option B, which is 8 bajillion times more meaningful and valuable than option A. Because like I said, if empty buckets overflow, falls fat and flat, fat, if it falls fat, score! But if it falls flat, you know what? Score! Because I learned the lesson, and that's the most valuable thing. And now that I've got the lesson and I'm incorporating it into my cells, I can teach it in all kinds of ways. I can teach it through that book. I can teach it in other ways, and I'm not worried at all. So follow and trust your instinct, because it's taking you somewhere more powerful and deeper and meaningful than you can plan on. That's where the magic of life is. And if you ever get worried or doubtful about trusting and following your instinct, remember this story. And the fact that I was calm and peaceful and in the right place, which was like huge and shocking, and that I went for one reason and came out with something else, that can happen to you by being on the step that you're on and trusting and following, right? A couple months ago when I signed up for this workshop, I didn't know I would be sitting here right now today telling you this. Fuck, you know what, you guys? When I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning, I didn't know I was going to be sitting here telling you this story. That's how magical it is when you trust and follow your instinct, because, right, even today, the instinct was saying, tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. So I've told you my story. We didn't get around to alignment and engagement. If you're sad about that, let me know, and I'll move it to next week. If you're like, it's fine. I have a question from someone about intention, and we can talk about intention next week. And if you have questions that you'd like answered about yoga or the cosmic jellyfish or the juju or body, like whatever, shoot your questions my way, because I absolutely love and adore answering your questions and telling stories and helping us all grow and expand our souls and the universe. Thank you so much for watching today, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your Monday. I look forward to seeing you again here on Facebook Live, on your mat in class. I'm here all week, you guys. Tuesday, 6:30, Wednesday, 5:30, Friday, 9:30, and Saturday, 9 o'clock. I'd love to see you on your mat. If you'd like a private lesson, I have one open spot this week, and then not again until May. And other than that, have a beautiful, beautiful Monday. I appreciate you watching and listening and tuning in and learning with me. And yeah, it's all great stuff. Namaste.